My name is Cynthia Romero, and at 34 years old, I learned the ugliest truth a person can ever discover, that sometimes the people who should love you the most will let you die quietly, as long as you keep paying their bills. I remember the flashing lights first, not the pain, not the fear, just the sterile glow of fluorescent bulbs buzzing above me, flickering like some tired guardian angel trying its best. Then came the beeping, steady, mechanical, indifferent, machines breathing for me when my own lungs refused to. I had collapsed during a Zoom meeting after 17 straight days of work, sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night, surviving on vending machine food, and juggling 3 contracts so I could keep my parents afloat, and keep my younger sister Bianca living like a princess in Milan. When I woke up in the ICU, my throat dry from oxygen tubes and my arm bruised from IV lines, the first thing I did was reach for my phone. I still don't know why. Hope, maybe, or habit. Expecting the usual barrage of messages from my mother, guilt-laced pleads, dramatic sighs, and Bianca's tearful emergencies that always ended with, "Please, Cynthia, I need help." But when I tapped the screen, my heart chilled. My phone was fully charged, untouched. Not a single missed call, not one text, not even from my mother, a woman who claimed she couldn't sleep unless she knew her girls were safe. The only notification was a message timestamped 6:42 a.m. from Dad. "Send us the $78,000 for Bianca's wedding. Don't make her stress." "No, are you okay?" "We're coming. We're worried sick." Just an invoice disguised as a text. And the strangest part? Even lying there after a cardiac episode, I still sent it. Right there in that hospital bed with machines hissing beside me, I transferred $78,000. Money I spent years building by working 80-hour weeks, skipping vacations, living in a tiny apartment, and funneling every spare dollar towards Bianca's education, rent, business failures, and emotional storms. I told myself they need me. This is what family does. But in reality, I was the family's exhausted financial lifeline. A walking, breathing ATM with a pulse. 3 days later, the hospital discharged me. Still dizzy, still weak, still bruised. No one came. Not my mother, not my father, not Bianca, the sister whose entire adult life was built on my back. I ordered a cab and rode home in silence, resting my head against the window as the driver chatted about weekend traffic. My body ached. My mind felt hollow. When I opened my apartment door, I thought I'd finally collapse into the peace of being home. But instead I froze. There, written in lipstick on my hallway mirror, the shade Bianca always wore, was a message. "You already paid for my wedding. Now get out. I'll call you when I need more money." My pulse stuttered, and then I heard it. Laughter in the kitchen. My mother's laughter. A cold, dismissive laugh. The kind reserved for gossip, not for a daughter who had just spent 3 days in intensive care. I didn't say a word. I didn't demand an explanation. I didn't break down, scream, or argue. Something inside me shifted. It wasn't anger, it was clarity. For the first time in my life, I saw every moment, the manipulation, the guilt, the endless, "you're selfish" lectures, clearly. And I saw exactly what I needed to do next. My family believed I existed to be used, but they had no idea that while Bianca bragged about her $150,000 wedding and my parents plotted my next contribution, I had already begun quietly preparing something they never expected, a way out, and a way to end the illusion they built around themselves. In that moment, still weak from the hospital and betrayed down to my bones, I did something I had never done before. I smiled, because Bianca's perfect little wedding wouldn't end the way she imagined. I've always been the responsible one, the oldest, the fixer, the one who holds everything together while everyone else cracks under pressure. It was never said outright, but from the moment I could walk, I knew what my role was. I was meant to sacrifice. Bianca, my younger sister, was the golden child, the darling of the family, always praised, always coddled. She wore the finest dresses, carried herself with that perfect plastic smile, and never, ever had to worry about the future, because, well, she never had to. While she spent her days living it up in Milan, studying luxury branding and flying first class, I worked 60-hour weeks. I skipped vacations, saved every penny, and lived in an apartment so small I had to move my bed to get to the kitchen. I couldn't afford to live like her, but I didn't mind. I was fine, or at least I told myself I was. The truth? I was the one holding us all up, paying for Bianca's tuition, her apartment, her failed startup businesses. My parents never asked about my life, who I was dating, what I wanted, what I dreamed about. Instead, they handed me a bill every time Bianca called. I remember the time she asked for money because her car broke down on the highway. I drove 3 hours to pick her up. When I got there, she looked at me, blinked, and said, "I know you're tired, but can you pay for the repair too? I don't have it." I didn't say no. I never said no. "You're the responsible one, Cynthia," my mother would say. "You're the one who keeps this family going." And I did, for years. But when they told me I was the man of the family at 21, I realized the weight I carried was more than just financial. It was emotional. It was moral. It was sacrificial. The turning point, though, came a few months ago, during a family dinner at my parents' house. Bianca wore white. White jeans, white top, white shoes. It was a statement, as usual. She had just announced her engagement to Jordan, a soft-spoken, well-spoken man who seemed to be nothing more than a walking investment to her. His real estate influence was just another avenue for Bianca to secure her luxury lifestyle. The announcement wasn't a surprise. Bianca had been planning this day for months. She sat at the dinner table, hands fidgeting with the diamond ring, and announced, "I've booked the Grand Oriana Ballroom for my wedding. 1,200 guests, open bar, a flower wall flown in from Amsterdam. It's going to be a dream." I blinked. A dream? At what cost? 150,000 at least. I couldn't hide my confusion. "That'll cost you close to 150,000, I said, trying not to let the disbelief in my voice show. Bianca simply smiled. "It's already handled, Cynthia. Don't worry about it." The night grew long and uncomfortable, like it always did when my family ignored every need I had. And then, in the garage, my father pulled me aside. The air smelled of gasoline and old car oil, his tired, faded smile barely lighting up his face. "Cynthia, we need to talk." I was already bracing for it. I knew what was coming. "This wedding is for the family's image," he said, clapping me on the back like he was giving me a congratulatory hug. "You know how people talk. Bianca deserves this. She's been working hard, and who's paying for it?" I raised my eyebrows. "You are?" He smiled, like it was obvious. "You are. We only need $78,000 from you. We'll cover the rest." My heart sank. My blood felt like ice. I swallowed hard, but my words caught in my throat. "You're joking," I managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. "No, I'm not. It's family. Don't be selfish," he snapped. And there it was, the word selfish. The word that had been used against me my entire life. Anytime I hesitated, anytime I dared to draw a boundary or stand up for myself, it was thrown at me like a weapon. They weren't asking. They were demanding. And I was too used to saying yes. I had spent the last decade of my life on autopilot, putting my own wants and needs in the backseat of my mind while I kept the family car running. And that night, I nearly said yes again. I almost gave in. But something inside me shifted. I thought about the hospital, about waking up to no one, about sending that $78,000 without so much as a question. I said I'd think about it, and I did, for weeks. I stewed over it, replaying it in my mind. Then, the collapse happened. I worked too hard, too long, pushing my body to the brink. And when I woke up, my family's response to my near death was to ask for more money. That was it. That was the moment I knew. They were never going to change. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. So I said no. I walked away from that dinner, from their demands, and quietly started planning my revenge. Not for revenge's sake, but for freedom. I had a plan, and it was going to cost them far more than $78,000. The day of Bianca's wedding arrived crisp and bright, the kind of morning that tricks you into believing the world is pure and fair. But the Grand Oriana Ballroom, with its marble floors, gold-veined walls, and acres of imported orchids, was anything but pure. It was a glittering monument to delusion, financed by a lifetime of my sacrifices. I wasn't invited. My name wasn't on the guest list. Bianca made sure of that. According to her, I had already done my part, and my presence would ruin the aesthetic. But I showed up anyway, not as a guest, as a reckoning. The doors swung open, and a hush spread through the ballroom like a slow-moving wave. Influencers paused mid-pose. Guests whispering across crystal champagne flutes turned their heads. "Is that Cynthia? I thought she wasn't invited. Why is she here?" My heels clicked against the polished marble, each step echoing like a countdown. Bianca stood at the altar in a gown more expensive than a year of my rent. Custom lace, pearl detailing, a dramatic train that required 2 bridesmaids to wrangle. For a second, Just a second. I looked at her the way I used to. My little sister. The girl who once held my hand crossing the street. The girl who used to cry if I left the room. The girl I protected, defended, and provided for. But that girl had become a woman who wrote "Get Out" on my mirror after I almost died. Her smile faltered when she saw me. "Cynthia, what are you doing?" she hissed through clenched teeth, her veil trembling. I stepped forward, calm, controlled, almost serene. "Fixing things," I said softly. The officiant blinked in confusion. Excuse me, miss. We're in the middle of—" "I only need 2 minutes," I replied, taking the microphone from his shaking hands. "Then you can go back to pretending this wedding is built on love and not manipulation." Gasps rippled through the room like electricity. Bianca's eyes widened in horror. "Stop!" she whispered urgently, grabbing for the mic. Jordan, her fiancé, looked between us with growing unease. I raised my phone, my thumb hovered over the screen. "You all deserve to know who you're celebrating," I said, my voice steady, my heart strangely calm. "Before you toast the bride, you should know the truth." Then I pressed the button. Every phone, every tablet, every smartwatch in the ballroom lit up at once, vibrating, buzzing, chiming like a technological symphony of judgment. Screens glowed with screenshots, audio recordings, receipts, bank transfers, call logs, messages. 10 years, $230,000. Every penny I ever sent. The crowd murmured louder, confusion turning into shock. A bridesmaid dropped her bouquet. Bianca lunged forward, her voice cracking. "What did you do?" But the guests were already scrolling. Some gasped, some covered their mouths, some stared at Bianca like they were seeing her for the first time. Jordan finally unlocked his own phone and froze. Text after text, Bianca's voice notes, her mocking laughter. "Just cry and she'll pay. She's a sad little wallet with trauma. As long as Cynthia keeps sending money, I'll be fine. Don't worry, Mom, she's too weak to say no." Then came the audio clip of Mom. "Cynthia's not like us, no style, just money, and that's all we need." People turned toward my parents, disgust growing. My father stood like a statue, unable to move. Bianca screamed, "Stop! Delete that!" She scrambled for Jordan's phone, but he stepped back, face drained of color. "You told me you paid for everything," Jordan whispered, his voice trembling. "You told me she cut you off. You said she was unstable, jealous." "It was just a joke. You don't understand," Bianca pleaded. Another notification hit every device. The second wave. Photos of me in the ICU. Wristband with my name. Heart monitor numbers. Oxygen tubes. Medical report showing cardiac collapse due to extreme stress. A caption accompanied the album. While I was fighting for my life, they were fighting for more money. The ballroom erupted. Shouts. Accusations. Phones held high, recording Bianca collapsing onto the flower wall, worth more than a used car. Someone yelled, "She treated her sister like a bank account." Another, "Oh my God, she didn't even visit her at the hospital?" Jordan removed his wedding band and handed it back to Bianca with shaking fingers. "I can't marry someone built on lies," he whispered. My mother stormed forward, face red with fury. "You're exaggerating. You've always been dramatic. How dare you humiliate your sister?" I met her gaze, unblinking. "You humiliated yourselves," I said. "I just turned the lights on." I walked back down the aisle in the same calm silence I entered with. But this time, I wasn't invisible. Guests moved aside instinctively, creating a path. Some nodded at me. Some whispered, "Good for you." One elderly woman even clapped once, sharply, as if to punctuate it all. At the doors, I paused. The last thing I heard was Bianca screaming my name, my mother crying, and my father sitting motionless as if everything finally made sense. I didn't look back. Sometimes freedom doesn't arrive quietly. Sometimes it arrives wearing heels, holding a microphone, and refusing to be used one more day. Stop! By the next morning, the world felt like it had tilted on its axis. My phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, texts, voicemails, all demanding some kind of emotional payment. I didn't pick up. I didn't respond. I wasn't obligated to anymore. The first voicemail came from my mother, her voice sharp and furious. "Cynthia, how could you? You embarrassed your sister in front of everyone. You humiliated this family. Do you know what people are saying? You ruined us." I deleted it without listening to the rest. By noon, my father called. When I didn't answer, he left a quiet, uneven message. I didn't realize it was that bad. I called him back, my voice steady. "You never asked if I was okay." There was a long pause. "I thought you were tired," he said softly. I was dying. Silence. Neither of us breathed for a moment. "I thought you were strong," he whispered. I am, I said, and that's why I'm done. Done saving them. Done being their lifeline. Done being the backbone of a family that never cared whether I had bones left to break. I hung up first. He didn't call again. The wedding video hit TikTok within hours. A guest had recorded everything: my entrance, the mass phone alert, Bianca's panic, the ICU images. By the third day, it had over 2 million views. The comments were relentless. Protect her. She's an icon. Imagine treating your sister like a bank machine and being surprised she fought back. Meanwhile, Bianca vanished from social media. Her sponsorships dropped her. Her influencer brand distanced itself. The wedding planner demanded the remaining $45,000 immediately. Jordan issued a public statement saying he had no idea what he was marrying into. Then he left town. A week later, my mother insisted on a family meeting, desperate to reclaim whatever control she thought she still had. Only my father and Aunt Clara showed up. Aunt Clara hugged me with genuine warmth. It's about time someone spoke the truth. My mother glared at us. You didn't have to destroy Bianca like that. I didn't destroy her, I told her. I destroyed the story you all tried to force on me. You went too far, she snapped. I went far enough that I never have to repeat myself again. She didn't answer. My father stared at the table. Aunt Clara squeezed my hand. I stood. I'm done funding your life. I'm done being manipulated. I'm done being your fallback plan. I walked out and no one dared to follow. After that, I rebuilt from the ground up. I took a sabbatical. I started therapy. I adopted a dog who adored me with a kind of uncomplicated loyalty I had never known. I moved into a quiet loft. No one in my family knew the address. My phone number changed. My bank notifications no longer made my stomach flip. I sold old gifts, donated Bianca's wedding gift box, and bought a guitar. At night, I learned chords while my dog slept at my feet. For the first time in my adult life, I felt peace. 3 months later, I received a letter with no return address. Inside was Jordan's handwriting. Thank you. You saved me from a lifetime of lies. I hope you're living the life you deserved. I kept it, not out of pride, but out of confirmation that I wasn't crazy for protecting myself. Then, one afternoon in a bookstore, I met Daniel. He noticed the guitar book I was holding and asked if I played. We talked and kept talking. He listened, really listened, in a way no one in my family ever had. He told me about his past, about a woman who had drained him dry emotionally, and we both laughed at the eerie symmetry. When I finally told him everything, he didn't flinch. He didn't judge me. He didn't praise me. He simply said, "You didn't burn bridges. You lit your own path." I never realized how much I needed to hear that. I didn't lose a family. I lost the people who caged me, and I walked out. Here's what I've learned. When family treats you like a transaction, you don't negotiate. You walk away. When love comes with invoices or guilt, you cut the cord. You deserve peace, not exhaustion. Freedom, not obligation. Now, when my phone lights up with messages I don't want to answer, I do something I never thought I could. I turn it off, and I choose myself.